Here's my audience. Good. Hi, my name is Abby Bresco, and today I'm going to tell you about Alzheimer's. Have you ever had one of those moments where you know you're forgetting something but you can't figure out what it is? That's what a day in the life of an Alzheimer's patient is like. Today I will inform you on the most common form of dementia. I'm credible to speak on this topic because my grandfather was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 10 years ago. Alzheimer's is a disease that affects billions of Americans each year. It affects the brain and behavior of the patient, and there are a few precautionary measures that can be taken to prevent Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is defined by the National Human Genome Research Foundation as a neurological disorder which causes progressive dementia, disorientation, and behavioral changes which will affect more than 5 billion Americans this year. Nervous cells in the brain are called neurons, and they have three major parts: the axon, the cell body, and the dendrites. The cell body is the main part of the cell, which is like the control center. The axons are the part that sends information to other neurons, and the dendrites are long branch-like structures that receive information from other neurons. The Alzheimer's Association refers to the way that neurons work in the brain as factories. Each factory does something different, such as thinking, remembering, and communicating. When Alzheimer's damages part of that factory, the damage is able to spread, and it causes cell death, and it slows the function of the brain, and it causes irreversible damage. All of these factors can have major changes in the brain and behavior of an Alzheimer's patient. Changes in internal function of the brain cause outward behavioral changes in the patient that is affected. The Alzheimer's Association states that the disease results in changes in memory, thinking, and behavior. These symptoms are slowly onset but get worse as the disease progresses. According to the National Institute for Aging, the function and survival of neurons in the cells depend on 5 biological processes: communication, metabolism, repair, regression, and regeneration. These are all interrupted by Alzheimer's, causing changes in the way that the brain works. Healthy aging causes shrinking in the brain, but it doesn't cause a loss of neurons. An Alzheimer's patient has that shrinking of the brain, and neurons are lost in high numbers due to cell death. For my visual aid, I printed out this diagram of this side shows what a normal brain looks like, and this side is an Alzheimer's brain. And you can see where there's deterioration in the memory parts, the language, and there's a large portion of the ventricle that's missing as the brain deteriorates. Plaques and tangles are also a big sign of Alzheimer's in the brain. They cause different functions in the brain to change. The Alzheimer's Association defined plaques as protein formations called beta amyloid in the space between the nerve cells. Tangles are fibers of tau, which is a protein within the cell. Most people have plaques and tangles in their brain, but an Alzheimer's patient has a lot more, and they're in very predictable locations inside of the brain, such as where the memory is controlled, and then it spreads throughout as the disease progresses. Alzheimer's is a terrifying disease that is often genetically linked, but there are precautionary measures that can be taken to prevent it. According to the Alzheimer's Association, in most cases, Alzheimer's develops as a result of complex interactions between multiple different factors. Cardiovascular disease is often linked to Alzheimer's, and it has been found that up to 85% of Alzheimer's patients also have cardiovascular disease, and it is also linked with diabetes, high blood pressure, and cholesterol. Because of this, diet and exercise are extremely important in the prevention of Alzheimer's. Diet can keep a healthy heart, and exercise increases the blood and oxygen flow to the brain, and it strengthens those neurons. The final indicator of the final way to prevent Alzheimer's is social connections. It's been shown that the social connections help to strengthen that bond between the neurons and the brain, and it stimulates those brain cells. As you can see, Alzheimer's is a terrifying disease that affects not only the brain but also the behavior of the individual who is diagnosed. There's no cure right now, but there are multiple precautionary measures that can be taken to prevent Alzheimer's. Thank you all for listening, and I hope that you've learned something new about Alzheimer's disease.